We've obviously suffered the same as the country and the province has with the 2008 recession. We, over the last 2 decades up here, have been slowly losing a manufacturing sector that was once one of the healthy drivers of the economy up here. Talking furniture factories in country, we're talking large manufacturers here in Owen Sound. And then you have the austerity measures of the government, which have actually taken both jobs and services out of our community.
Any business who opens up is going to open up in an area where there's a market for it. And this concerned us just when we were seeing in Owen Sound alone that there were 5 payday loan lenders popping up in the community. And that is an indication of a community that's really financially at risk for a lot of people in order to access that service.
Poverty in Grey Bruce, like a lot of places in rural, is hidden. We see it in the social service field because we're seeing the increased use of food banks and other services, increases in your social assistance applications, small businesses closing and struggling, lack of job ads in the paper.
I was raised in a single family home, a middle class home. My mother was gainfully employed all of her life. I'm not a product of generational welfare. I had a child at 17. I dropped out of school. Back then, there was something called mother's allowance. I got caught up in the system. It was very difficult to get off. And I happened to have children with special needs. So holding down employment was difficult when you have to leave your job to get your child at school or to take 6 doctor's appointments a month in the middle of a workday. Divorces, loss of job, loss of income.
When you have centralized services, they tend to be in Owen Sound, but they are certainly reaching out to the Grey Bruce extended satellite communities. So people who are living in the smaller communities really have a huge challenge, particularly if they don't have enough gas to put in their vehicles to get to Owen Sound, or if they don't have transportation, how are they actually going to get to Owen Sound? The Adult Learning Centres of Grey Bruce, Georgian, we have about 6 satellite offices as well as the one in Owen Sound. So we're in Kincardine, Port Elgin, Hanover, Wyerton, Owen Sound, and Collingwood. Even though we have a very vibrant community right now, and we're seeing signs of that decline, we are in a position, if we do something about it now, then the community will not suffer nearly as greatly.
One of the strengths comes back to actually the old-fashioned sense of community that has always been fostered up here in rural Ontario, that when you were living in a small town or small community, that when something happened, it was your neighbors, friends, your church who rallied around to solve the problem. And we actually see and sense that we're in some of our work with the agencies that we do have good volunteers out there. We do have good community participation and will to support many of the things we try to do. We have some very generous corporations in the area who have taken up the role as stewards and who recognize their corporate responsibility, and we're very generous donors in the area. We've lost government services, so many of us are having to provide more for our clients and do more for them.
A number of the social services groups are coming together and meeting regularly and starting to communicate around how to solve these problems on a community level rather than just on an agency to agency to agency level.
What we tried to put in place is the network so that the person going into the shelter who's having trouble with their utilities, the person in the food bank will then say, call the United Way. Then we find out they may have a problem with alcoholism, whatever. We will direct them to the service or agency that will deal with that problem. As I say, all the networking leads into each other, as I say, because all these problems you'll find nobody comes in with a single issue to deal with, and none of our agencies are really set up to deal with multiple issues at the time. So we must sort of coordinate and refer people to other services, etc.
The depression is a huge part of people that are in the system, and it's unacknowledged. They don't seem to understand. You just get caught up in a depression, and you sit at home, and you have your check coming in, and it is a big, ugly net, and it is so hard to cut those ropes to get out. If it wasn't for the Adult Learning Center, well, as a particular program that was run through the Adult Learning Center in social services, I would still be seriously depressed sitting on my couch. I was contemplating suicide, and I couldn't tell anyone that because that makes me mentally unbalanced. I couldn't go to someone like Children's Aid or the Children's Alliance because I'm a danger to my children then.
But one of the issues that we don't really have a lot of control over right now is a couple of things. One is the political legislated amounts of money that are lost in transfer payments to our communities, and also the legislated amounts around folks that the amount of dollars that they receive when they're on social assistance.
There is no way you can live a life of dignity on what Ontario Works is paying right now. So without enough money, there's just no amount of supports, etc., that any agency can put into place.
If you're looking at a single person who is living on $599 a month, and our rents in this area are around $450 to $550 for a single person, that leaves you with $99, and that may be you have to pay your heat and hydro and your food and your clothes. So those are government policies that we have no control over. That is one of the areas that keeps people in poverty.
If you do have a child and your child is at school, and he or she gets in trouble, you get a note home or a phone call, let's work on this, there's a problem with your child. Someone in my situation has Children's Aid called. I've been lucky enough I haven't lost my kids, and I've dealt with them, and I'm not afraid of that organization. They serve a purpose. But there's fear and bullying in some of the social service agencies. That we are bullied, threatened, because we don't conform to middle-class values. I really think that the middle-class social service agency should start conforming to the lower income. Understand us a little bit better. It is the support and the sense of community and sense of belonging, and to know that someone else, you're not going to be able to sit there and become a hoarder or not clean your house. And you need to know that there is at least one or two other people out there that care.
Once you get caught in the social service net, it's great. I am so grateful that we have that in Canada as a social service net, but it's a net. And if you get your foot caught in a net, it's really hard to get out. And I think this is the misconception that we have within our communities, is that when folks get caught in the net, that somehow they think it's their fault. And in a lot of ways, it's not. Economic level of income coming into your house, the economic lens will change over the period of your life. And I think we cannot label people because that happens.
I really want to change the perceptions of welfare mom or welfare bum, the poor. I really don't like those terms, and I just want to get a message out there that it's not appropriate, it's offensive. We're not all bums, we're not lazy, we're not all drug addicts or alcoholics, we're not bad parents. Some of us are educated, we're employable, I really want to get that message across, and I really want to break stereotypes.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.